the new guidance that came from the FDA, it was very clear that something will change, and in terms of introducing the patient voice in the instrument selection. So it was very fortunate that we got a very large client at the beginning of the lifetime of the company, where we were asked to build a service unit for the operational execution of COAs in that company. So the volume was huge. So that actually led to our revised focus. And then in the beginning of the year, here in 26, we took the decision only to focus on COAs and then expand our expertise also into strategy and the electronic implementation. So we service the full span of clinical outcome assessments.
Welcome to the Culture, Communication and Care Spotlight with Mark Gibson and Nur Ferrante, a space within the Patient Voice and Linguistic Validation Café podcast where health communication, cultural sensitivity and diversity are given voice cross-culturally through experiences of patients and professionals in the field.
This episode is sponsored by GRC, putting the patient at the heart of research globally.
Our guest today is Thomas Coquelle, CEO and founder of Coquelle Consulting, a Copenhagen-based company specializing in clinical outcome assessment strategy and operations for pharma and biotech. With over 25 years of clinical development experience, primarily in sponsor roles, he brings deep knowledge of clinical development operations in sponsor organizations. Discover Beyond Endpoints, patient voice at the heart of COA strategy. Hello and welcome today to our episode 14 of Culture, Care and Communication Spotlight. Today with Thomas Coquelle and Rachid Dalgaard Boulmane from Coquelle Consulting, and we're going to be speaking about endpoints, patient voice, and the heart of COA strategy. So welcome, both of you. We're very happy to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes. Pleased to be here, Nur and Mark.
Yes, thank you so much.
Pleased to have you.
And well, to start, we would like to know a bit about you so that people who follow our podcast may get to know you better. And maybe you can start, Thomas, and I don't know if you prefer to introduce the company a bit and then you introduce yourself, and then Rachid.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. My name is Thomas Coquelle, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Coquelle Consulting. The company is 3 years old, and we have a strong focus on specialization of COAs, clinical outcome assessments, where we cover both the strategy and the operational implementation in the clinical trials. So our main focus is really introducing patient voice in the decision making of the COAs. And my background is over 25 years in clinical development in various roles, primarily as a sponsor. My identity is very much as a sponsor, so I know quite well the machinery of a sponsor organization working in Danish pharma, companies like Lundbeck and Leo Pharma. So this is usually very well received when you work with COAs and service providers, because we need to understand how these COA deliveries fits into the overall delivery plan for a development program or a clinical trial. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what my introduction. So I will leave the word to Rachid.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Rachid, and I serve as a business development of Coquelle Consulting. Yeah, I act at the main point is the contact for pharma, biotech, and CRO clients seeking COA and clinical trials expertise. So I work closely with sponsors and service providers to understand their requirement and translate them into customized solutions. So that's what I'm doing in the company. Yeah. Yes. So that's for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. I understand that will prompt you maybe to create Coquelle has to do, of course, with all that experience that you just shared. But maybe could you tell us the story behind this 3-year-old company that has so much future and so much solid background, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have been working in corporate pharmaceutical companies and know the inside of those, but still having a strong knowledge about the external stakeholder landscape from authorities, investigators, obviously, ethics committees, patient advocates also. And the last 2 years of my last position at Leo Pharma, I was actually completely free to do what I wanted because we worked in decentralized clinical trials, and we were able to put a fingerprint on the guidance that was coming out of the DKMA and later EMA. The DKMA was a front runner of DCT, decentralized clinical trials, and we had a very strong collaboration with the DKMA and BfArM, where our test study was going to be run in. It was quite ambitious, 100% DCT, meaning that the patient could sit at home all the time from being recruited, informed consent, and later on being included and receive the product at their doorstep. So everything was thought through. And all these elements, of course, has huge impact on the operations. And the authorities was very interested in these use cases in order to actually have something concrete to write the guidance from. So it was not in the cards that I was going to have my own company, because I had the best job in the world, I thought. But there was a lot of financial cuts in Leo at the time, and the group that I was part of was actually removed because this was purely innovation. It was not impossible to say when Leo would benefit on the bottom line for our activities. So I was asked to leave, and then I had to ask myself the question, what should I do now? Should I just polish my CV and go back to corporate, another sponsor company? And I decided to start on my own. And I have been working sort of on the side for the COAs because I have been running trials for many, many years. So we already had always have COAs like PROs or clinician reported outcomes. But at that time, primarily in the 10s, the late 10s, 17, 18, and the beginning of the 20s, it was not really a primary focus for dermatology for Leo Pharma. I knew the importance for the CNS because I have a strong background in CNS working for Lundbeck, and here the COAs are completely in a different place on the hierarchy of the assessments. And here you really need to ensure you have there was a lot of focus on RATR certification and harmonized way of administering the instrument. So it was not completely, so I always worked with COAs, but since the new guidance that came from the FDA, it was very clear that something will change, and in terms of introducing the patient voice in the instrument selection. So it was very fortunate that we got a very large client at the beginning of the lifetime of the company, where we were asked to build a service unit for the operational execution of COAs in that company. So the volume was huge. So that actually led to our revised focus. And then in the beginning of the year, here in 26, we took the decision only to focus on COAs and then expand our expertise also into strategy and the electronic implementation. So we service the full span of clinical outcome assessments, from understanding which instruments we are going to use, the selection of the instruments, the leverage or development of validation, and the linguistic validation, obtaining licensing and permissions, making sure that all these delivery files actually fit into a clinical delivery plan for startup, because this is a huge COAs have a huge criticality in starting up these complex multi-center, multinational trials. And then finally also making sure that the COA vendors, the software companies who is going to implement the instruments, are also following the requirements. So that's where we are today. So it has kind of been an evolution, but I think it all makes sense now to us. We are very happy about this decision. Yeah, sorry, it was a very long answer to your question.
It was great.
It is a brilliant answer.
Yes, what a fascinating journey, right? Of even reinvention, because from a very difficult situation, let's say, or, well, yes, maybe you could have found a similar position, but it was a chance for you to reconsider your life professionally and maybe personally as well, no, on many fronts, and become an entrepreneur yourself, and see where there was a lack for patient voice support in so many aspects, and to bring something that in a way it's very unique, because someone with your, well, you being a sponsor and deciding to shift into COA strategy, and it's just I think it's incredible for COA science, and because there is a sense that many aspects are like a bit floating in the air. It's not clear, you know, and many sponsors seem to not grasp the importance of COAs, or even the linguistic validation process, or what's really needed when we implement eCOA, and how critical it can be for patients' lives, really. So I think it's really fascinating story.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and it all makes sense, because I mean the patient, as you mentioned, there are multiple sponsors who support the idea of patient engagement, but it is so difficult for them to realize, mainly because it's only until now that the authority requests the documentation. For decades, we have been talking about patient engagement, and authorities has been, I can give an example for our DCT trial in Leo Pharma. Here we actually received some favorable opinion about our protocol, but there was a requirement included that we should test the user interface of the DCT platform for the patients. And that was actually after a direct advice from us in the team, because we have been frustrated for many years that, you know, there are the SMEs like me and others want the patient engagement, but there's only one thing counting in clinical trial development, and that is data, the data package that you provide, and the storytelling that you put in your application for the authorities. And there are so many drugs that have been approved without further, scrutiny and understanding on how these data was collected. So the link from the instruments, what data you are going to collect, how you're going to collect it, and the data quality has always been realized, but it's only until now where you put these requirements in place for any sponsor and for any clinical development program that you should provide the documentation. That is not just a random exercise how you chose your instruments, how you selected your instruments, that you should actually put this into place. This is one aspect. And then the other aspect is the organizational obstacles in operations, because it's so easy to say we want to do something, but as soon as you increase the organization to big pharma entities, it's so difficult for them to change. And every element you put into the delivery plan and codependencies add time and add money. And everyone is talking about the opposite scenario. We want to reduce every single delivery so we can come earlier to market. That's the whole idea of being developing pharmaceuticals. Otherwise, you simply die with your product. Then other competitors will come before yourself. So it is crucial that these requirements are not only coming from the wish from patient advocates, from stakeholders, from the sponsors themselves, but the actual end receiver of the data, the authorities. So
yes, because it's incredible now the long, let's say, or extended life cycle of a medicinal product. It's you've been going through all these steps, and first with animal testing and all these processes, years and years of research, and then all the different phases of a clinical trial, and all of a sudden, there are, I don't know, you come to the patient and then there's not enough patient engagement, or data is not properly collected, and then all your efforts die just because of this. It's years and years of money and research and effort, and it's really amazing when you think about it. So I guess it's a company like yours, it's a safe boat or lifeboat. I don't know how to say it, for things that
this
are
is what we hope.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, because yes, from maybe 2020 or the years that you were mentioning up until now, we've seen an increase of the use of COAs or instruments as endpoints. And my question is, what have you seen? I mean, it doesn't need to be exact percentages or anything, but for example, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, which are even phase 4, what type of COAs do you see, and what percentage maybe you see being more used? Because I understand that probably phase 2 and phase 3 is the main bulk of the use of these instruments as endpoints, or even primary endpoints. But I would like to have your views as a sponsor and as a consultant as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is striking how many additional CRAs we now see in the protocols. There is also a tendency to go the other direction, that there are simply too many instruments. But I think I could see the shift around 2020, and then the additional focus on new instruments, the new ways of collecting data. I'm not saying that the protocols I have seen have as completely streamlined in terms of strategy and the way the instruments were selected. That's not my experience. It has more. In some instances, we see a very clear plan on what instruments have been selected. There has also been qualitative research and leverage of the validation package prior to the trials were actually planned and conducted. However, it is not completely that there's still a lot of transformation that needs to take place. Especially, I mean, some of our articles from endpoint to objective, from endpoint to evidence is actually mentioning this, that it's very important to start very, very early with these additional interviews or qualitative research where you investigate on the disease yet that you are trying to understand, and not just rely on business as usual, or not just rely on KOL feedback on what we usually do. So the right step is to start with the patient, and then of course you can reference all the past legacy knowledge, but if you want to position yourself with a new compound, you should go a step deeper to understand how the patient feels and function. And there's always something you don't understand, because you are not yourself the patient. The sponsor, even the physician seeing them, doesn't always grasp what it is to have this unique condition. And an example could be that there are some social aspects that is not really well described about having a disease. This could be a cancer type which prevents you from doing something, and it has tremendous impact on the patient's quality of life and how they function daily. But these things are not measured in the trials that are participating in, and this is where we have the possibility via the qualitative interviews to actually uncover these things. You should always be humble in disease understanding. The stakeholder that knows most about the disease is always the patient. So it's also a mindset you need to introduce yourself, even though you have the most skilled expert or consultant specialist who has been treating the disease for many years. There could be gaps that are not fully understood.
You made me think of, we had a conversation not so long ago with a partner of us. They are called Folia Health, I think it's Folia Health, Mark, yes. They have an HRO, a home reported outcome, and it's like they can tailor it as well, in the sense that it's capturing the experience of patients, and it's really like amazing that it could be used for maybe early phases of clinical trials, where exactly what you were mentioning, that clinicians need to understand, no, or sponsors or principal investigators, really what the patient is feeling. And HROs, which really, we talk about COAs and we talk about PROs, ClinROs, OPSROs, and PERFOs, but we have this other flavor, because I like to call them the flavors of COAs, and we have also the HROs, right? And I guess trying to fit HROs in the entire cycle of the clinical trial, let's say even phase 1, although it's healthy participants, but how they experience the different reactions, or for dosing or escalation or anything, but mainly for perhaps phase 2 and phase 3, but early, I don't know, like really capturing the experience. And we have a type of COA that it's like a blend between a COA and qualitative interviewing, let's say, because you have both the questionnaire plus the possibility of capturing the experience of the patients live, day after day, and then gathering all that data without having to do qualitative interviews as such. because it's impossible to be doing that every day with a patient. So that's one thing that I guess it's like it seems like very obvious, but at the same time, if implemented, it's like a revolution because it reduces a lot of issues if you really understand the experience of patients live, moment by moment, along all the phases.
Yeah. So we are developing kind of a speciality in PREMS, patient-reported experience measures, to accompany PROMs, and that fits in exactly with that. What is the patient's experience? So we announced this week that we have a partnership between GRC Health and Coquelle Consulting. And one of the things that really attracted me about your service offering is obviously, I mean, your expertise. It's real, genuine, authentic expertise in a sector where not that isn't always the case with people, to be honest. I mean, I've met quite a few people, but what really strikes me is the sincerity that you have about the patient voice, and that's really important for us. So we've when you go to conferences, particularly since COVID, patient voice and AI are the two slogans that you see everywhere. Elevate the patient voice. We use AI. We use AI to elevate the patient voice. Even what does that mean to you? What does elevate the patient voice mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mark. I mean, to me, the patient has always been a very, very important stakeholder. And I have been a trial planner for many, many years. And I don't know where it started, but I have been a CRA. So I have actually been visiting for many years. I have been visiting hospitals, clinics, even meeting patients for many instances, and also getting to understand how does it actually work in practice, both from the trial perspective, but also in the routine practice. I've also worked in non-interventional. So it's always there's so much decision making to do in clinical trials. You have to sort of kind of guess these patient flows, and then you put all the requirements for GCP and the scientific goals on top of that. But there is a tendency that patient engagement and the patient perspective is called sort of lost in translation. An example is this large list, this very long list of instruments, because each instrument has their own purpose. Some of them leads into an endpoint. Maybe there's a scientific reason, maybe there's a payer reason, but nobody has really is not completely included into our processes, that we should also make it life tolerable for the patient and the site. And this is really something that has always been important for me. So I only welcome the scenario where we live today, where this is no longer something that you just do because you want to engage the patient. This is actually something that is required by you. So this is, I think this is a big game changer. So I really welcome this scenario. So and I would also say that meeting you, Mark, and GRC and NUA is really how do you say, an orange in our basket, because we have the very strong competency about how clinical trials work. However, we need to have a stronger connection to the patient stakeholder. and I'm really happy that you can provide that. So that's for us, this is a perfect match. Not only what your company can bring, but also that you are such and skilled and nice people. So that's also important in terms of values. For us, values are really important in order to have a correct match. So
yes, yeah, that equally for us as well. It's the values are important. I think I remember we were talking from the very first moment just about the importance of patient engagement. And one of the things that I've worked in all kinds of sectors, the public sector, the private sector, pharma and elsewhere, public health. And so if we look at patient engagement, the patient voice agenda, let's say. So in pharma, the patient voice agenda are based on a number of assumptions that, first of all, there is patient-centered care, that there is shared decision-making, and that patients are empowered. And one of the ingredients of that empowerment is the fact that they have access to so much information, that there is an assumption around increased health literacy as well. But I mean, we saw, in COVID, in any health crisis, that it clearly isn't the case. So by the time it gets to pharma, those assumptions are consolidated, where it is assumed that patients are empowered, that patients are equal partners with their doctors in their treatment decisions and that kind of thing. And that patients are highly literate. So the type of, but it turns out that in many cases, the type of patients that are involved in clinical studies are a very small proportion of the, in inverted commas, empowered patient. How important is it to get, so let's say that this is the 1% of patients who are involved in trials. How important is it to get to the 99% to, just to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. It's actually one of the biggest pitfalls in our data, I think, because if we only have a recruitment potential of literate, well-educated people who provide participation in our trials and subsequent data, then you get a very biased perspective. So I know Denmark is probably not the best example, but even in Denmark, there are huge differences on what, even though we are so small, there are huge difference between the university hospitals and the rural areas. And there's a lot of people living in rural areas still who doesn't get these offers to actually for participation. It's a completely different ball game when you come to the larger countries, like especially in the US, where I can give you an anecdote for that. We were in the capacity of working for Leo Pharma. I was starting up a multinational trial, both in the North America and Europe at the same time, for one of the new eczema drugs that is now on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And we were inviting a patient advocate for our investigator meeting. So the investigators could also meet a patient advocate. But she represented an organization called the National Eczema Association. And she was very open and blunt that her profile, which was a woman, white, between 50 and 65, that was consisted 85% of their members. And they were living either in the East Coast or the West Coast. So that's another example of how difficult it is to outreach other type of patients. So we really need patient advocates to penetrate those populations. Somebody who is like, I mean, there's the black population, there's the Hispanic population. Ideally, I think it's actually something any recruitment initiative for a clinical trial should consider. In the ideal world, there should be patient advocates part of these multinational clinical trials. So somebody who actually has insight understanding of how this group thinks and how they receive information actually can help design the recruitment campaigns and making sure that they also get the same offers as the well-educated populations.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's kind of like a scale of sincerity, or like a spectrum of sincerity of how different companies, CROs, pharmaceutical companies, treat that patient advocate, whether they are genuinely part of the stakeholder group or they are just a nice little tokenistic add-on. It's like, oh, thank you very much for your opinion. Now there's your money, go. But thanks for your time anyway. Is that something that resonates with you? That there are differences in just how the importance of the patient is taken seriously?
Absolutely. I think that this is more or less the scenario that has taken place for patient advocates until now. I think when I was in Leo, there was also an initiative to include patient perspective into trial designs. So when trial outlines were written, that should be a patient advocacy group being presented to the trial design, giving input before they were finalized. But it had so much impact on timelines, and there was no dedicated group in Leo to actually maintain or create, initiate this, make an appropriate charter, making sure there was time. So at the end of the day, it was not really, it didn't came through. So nobody at top management was interested in this because it was only creating delays. So again, coming back to my point, the only thing that can change the behavior of the industry is really well described requirements via guidances and legislation from the authorities. That is the only, and then the risk, of course, that if you as a pharma company submit a package where you don't have these things, that there is actually also a consequence that your instruments were not very well validated. You don't document your patient perspective and input on how you designed your program. You cannot have the approval. I think it's only in those instances that there will be a change of behavior. So if it is just a nice to have tick box, but the consequence is not really, cannot be felt, that there will not be any change. So
I'm thinking now, like, for because many times that we do linguistic validation, no, because we are in with multi or cross-cultural aspects, and many questionnaires that we receive, the feeling is that they are outdated or very old, really, like prior to 2000s, and many of them, it's clear that patients have not participated during the development process of the COA. And that has a huge impact, right? Because when you interview patients, they tell you that it doesn't resonate with them, that those are not the symptoms that they feel, or that there are many symptoms that are not reflected there, and they just don't know how to answer. And so, but these instruments keep being used as primary endpoints now. And
exactly.
My question is, in the same way that we have good clinical practice, no, or we have guidelines for different aspects of a clinical trial, ethically wise and procedural wise, and etc. Do we have good COA practice ingrained into good clinical practice, or maybe a company like yours? Like, how can we help educate into this? Because it's something that you need to learn, and it's absolutely natural that not every researcher is and a specialist in COA, and they don't know how to select the appropriate ones, and they keep selecting outdated COAs, and they don't ask for maybe get in contact with the developer and say, look, let's do I don't know, a version 2 of this using
Exactly.
patients, and let's, because okay, it's, let's say this one is condition specific and it's going to target what I'm looking for, perfect, but it's not for patients really, it's for clinicians and how clinicians see the symptoms of patients. It's so how that's my question, or several questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult topic because this goes back to the mindset and the legacy business as usual approach that you see in many medical communities. So there's not much thinking out of the box, and there's also reasons to stick with the same instrument, even in a fully ideal and fully transformed industry that embrace COA strategy. I think these legacy instruments will still be there because you need them to compare with legacy trials, because then it's impossible. You cannot just start from scratch, and then you will not be able to compare effect from previous trials that happened 5, 10, 15 years ago. But that should not excuse the sponsor not to develop new ones or not to leverage existing ones. So I think that it will be a gradual transformation where hopefully if somebody sits and have the same conversation in 10, 20 years, there will be less and less instruments that doesn't have the appropriate validation and test before they are used. But you see this and again if you go into dermatology, that the instruments for psoriasis, for example, PASI is out in the open where the test documentation for PASI is. I don't think nobody can find it if they wished, but it's something that has been used for 30, 40 years or something, and you cannot just have a psoriasis trial without PASI. So, so that's an example of.
Yeah,
I think another thing as well with it's not just COA, but in terms of patient engagement, elevating the patient voice. It's so, a company can make as many slogans as they want about the patient voice, but then the patient says, yes, I'll take part in this trial. And then they are confronted with a 25-page consent form that they can't read or can't understand. And I do patient advocacy work, and many people have told me that they just sign at the end, didn't read it, and that's even more going to be the case with the electronic version of informed consent forms, where it'll just be swipe, 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 sign. When did you read the LinkedIn terms and conditions or Facebook terms and conditions? It'll be like that, the informed consent. So, just pointing out that it's a parallel thing to not just COA, but the general accessibility.
True. I think it's many of the guidance and legislation that is directing how we inform patients is focus more on content and making sure everything was informed. But nobody, I mean, the ICF alone is governed by, I think, 3 types of legislation: DCP, GDPR and also a medical device in those instances. And if you have to have one document that fulfills all the requirements from the law, obviously this will be a very complex and a very long, lengthy document, and going just fulfilling a tick box exercise that now we have complied with the required expectations from GCP, from GDPR, and so on. So it's really difficult to find a good solution. I know there are some service providers and also some sponsors who actually work with this, and then on top they put a framework for and a platform for actually educating the patient. Going back to the DCT trial I was responsible for, here we had a platform like that on top of the very lengthy paper ICF, which was a video, it was explaining in short what's going to happen. There was a quiz, so the patient could actually engage and understand whether they understood things, and the investigator could also follow that. So I believe more in those solutions, because on the other hand, I mean, I just took some GCP training again last week, and the chapter alone for GCP has 20 points. For any clinical trial who follows GCP, you have to cover 20 points that is directly described in the GCP guidelines. And even you should be really clever in reducing this just to 4 pages or something. That is not possible. So I don't really see a good way out of it, except that there would be requirements to make sure that the patient is actually educated and understand what is going to happen.
Yes.
But I don't know. Have you come across similar examples?
I have an example, but I don't know if it's exactly related with this. But I was thinking, it comes with a question that I have in relation to multinational clinical trials, and like the work that you do in relation to ensuring linguistic validation, right? And well, I'm an MS patient. I'm going to start an immune therapy with a new medication, and I'm here in Spain, and my neurologist just gave me the informed consent form, and regarding the medication, and it talks about progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, right? That it's one of the side effects that can happen, but it doesn't mention that it can be deadly, or the patient just dies from this, and it doesn't appear in the Spanish version. But if you go to the website of the pharma company that has developed this medication, of course it explains everything related to, we did studies in phase 1, phase 2, so on and so forth, and some patients developed this condition and died. So
Yes.
they explain to you that that's a side effect and you need to be aware of that. But in the Spanish version that they give to patients here, it's not explained. I know it because I have a medical background, right? And I get informed. I know English and I go to the website. But a patient in other languages may just think that there's no risk at all. Yes, some side effects here and there. And that leukoencephalopathy, whatever that it is, and if my doctor says this is okay. So to me, that's a huge gap, really huge gap, and has to do with transferring into multinational, let's say, sites, all of this. So how do you see from your consultancy possibilities of maybe avoiding these things from happening. I understand that we can't control everything, that we are human, and there are so many aspects in a clinical trial, and more in multinational ones. But these things are highly, extreme, because you can't decide really informed.
I understand the example, but from the sponsor companies I have worked with, there was actually a process for developing what we call a master English informed consent form. And there was different approaches depending on which company you work in, but especially the trial practicalities, what you can obtain from the trial, and the safety aspects of the trial is always something that is being the same across all countries. Then the Spanish EC, the French EC, whatever, they might have different requirements on how you actually address the patient. Sometimes you have to use certain words, but so in this example, I cannot recognize if the sponsor has an appropriate process for that. So if you have, usually the side effect section is being mentioned as sort of incidents. So if you have and in the early development, of course, you don't have so much knowledge about the product. So you just mention that there was a trial where this happened, and then the patient is informed, but it is not saying the likelihood of something happening. If you go to phase 3 or phase 4, then of course there's much more information about the safety profile and the potential side effects. So I think with that kind of process that I know all sponsors have, or if they don't have it, they should have it to make sure that the safety information is the same irrespective of which country you participate in. So that's my experience. But of course, mistakes can happen. So
this leads me to think of the importance of maybe having linguists with healthcare background in the process, along the process of also all the documentation and everything, not just when we do linguistic validation for COAs, but in not only a simple translation, but really understanding the condition, the side effects, and checking if this is being really accurately transferred into the different languages, cultures, and also considering taboos and considering cultural sensitivities, etc. Right? Because we assume that maybe there are patients that are not going to say, okay, yes, I will accept this treatment due to maybe cultural issues. So I'm taking it to our area, right? In relation to linguistics as well, and sociolinguistics and anthropology and diversity, really, no? And
as you mentioned, it's very important part of COA is cultural adaptation.
Yes,
it's not always are cultural adapted. So that means we don't just ask questions; we make sure those questions are understood in the same way across different cultures and social context. So COA is not only about measuring outcomes; it's about measuring them in a way that is meaningful and comparable for all patients, no matter where they come from. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, we are going to close the interview. I think we could be hours, and maybe we will have a second episode, because this is amazing, really, talking with you. And just maybe two last things, very short, that I would like to ask you. One is, One value, what would be one value that guides your everyday life? Like, what would be the main one with the work you do and that you want to transmit to us and share?
Yeah, I think we really, it's really about, we write them on our website actually. We tell them about, tell them to our new employees, and we try to actually live them also. And that's really two things: honesty and transparency, because yeah, from the many experience I have, is also how leadership can be exercised, and that there are many different phases to that. So we have a clear opinion on how this is should be. We have a job where we actually have the possibility to change something for the better, for future treatments for the patient. But what's for me has always been most important, when you don't have direct patient contact, that the reward that you get is something that you create yourself, with yourself and with your the people around you. So I have been in an organization who was talking always about, oh, we are doing this for the patient, but the actual atmosphere and the working culture was not a nice place to be. It was more in a different path in terms of how well you feel in that place. So here, that's an example of where you say something, but you don't do it. And conscious or unconscious people understand immediately if you don't do what you say. Then they understand that something is not correct. So this is what we try to live.
Yeah.
Rachid, do you have any comments? Do you agree?
I agree totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
When thoughts, feeling, and action, right, are
Exactly.
absolutely
Yeah.
coordinated. And
Because we risk hearing the words but missing the meaning.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's really, sometimes we think that all corporations or pharma companies or everything, is this huge competition and all these lack of values and everything. And we say, but we don't want to work like that. No, we want to work with people that have values and really care for the patients. And yes, we need money to pay for this and this and this. So it's part of the process. But this gives a lot of hope, because it's like, no, there are people like us, and many more than we think, and in high positions, and they are decision makers. And we all of us don't need to be let's say business sharks, not at all, right?
Yeah.
And we can work very well and make profit as well, and share that profit as well, and so on. So it's really lovely that you have these values and that we share them with you.
Nice.
And as last question, just to close and getting back to the endpoint idea here that we began with, what does beyond endpoints mean to you personally?
I mean, beyond endpoints is, yeah, I mean, if you only focus on endpoints, it's really about only the data. Of course, that's the main delivery, but of course, it links a little bit more to what is it that we are doing, what are we producing, but there's also people behind. So for me, that's really to understand that we deal with people. We deal with human beings, and all our actions and planning should be reflected into that we should think of our stakeholders and doing the right thing. So both in the trials, but also in the collaborations we have. So
yeah. Our real client is the patient, right? I always try to remind myself that our real client is the patient, not the pharma company, or not it's in the end, it's people. Yes. And we can get sick just like the patients we are researching, no, or
Do you,
searching with.
do you have a couple of minutes more? I just want to show something. I'm not below.
We have more than a couple of minutes, Mark.
Okay.
So So this was it was from a conference I did last year. I was a speaker at a conference, and it was about relationship-centered care. And just before, I didn't have any notes or anything like that. But a few seconds before I started speaking, I decided to list on the back of this all of the terms that have come and gone in the time that I've been working in this area around patient voice. So patient voice, patient agency, patient activation, patient enablement, patient centricity, patient insights, patient perspectives, patient engagement, patient empowerment, co-production, individualized care, human-centered care, whole person care, outcome focused care. These are all trends that have come and gone like a carousel in a fairground, and that's what I'm talking about the sincerity of the patient voice. Is it the trend? In 5, 6 years' time, are we going to be talking about the next iteration of whatever the patient voice is replaced with in terms of a cliche or a slogan?
Yeah.
Or is this actually going to be what changes?
Yeah. We hope so. We sincerely hope so. I truly resonate these buzzwords. I have also been. I mean, patient engagement has been existing since I started in Pfizer in early zeros. So it's not something new. Of course, you can put something different meaning into it. Risk-based monitoring. Maybe you remember that wave.
Yeah.
DCT, that was also was virtual trials. That was also something you talked about for 2 or 3 years, and then and patient voice is now starting. But I think the main change is that now the authorities are starting to wake up, and it's coming as a requirement. Whether it would actually manifest in, as I hope, drug applications being rejected because there was not adequate patient voice. That's the only thing that can change behavior.
Exactly.
If the pharmaceutical finds out that it's only something we talk about, but we can still get your drug approved, then I don't think we will see the change in behavior we wish for. So.
And a topic for a follow-up podcast is the trend towards simulated patient voices through AI and simulated interviewers through AI. So that's food for thought for the next one. We should definitely have another one, I think.
That's an interesting topic. So.
Yes. So, Thomas, Rachid, it was really a pleasure. Can you just tell us where people can find you, read your, because you have several articles, and I don't know if they can reach you maybe through LinkedIn or through your website, but also maybe other sources that they can just read more about what you do and get more insight.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I would say it's mainly in our website, coquelleconsulting.com, and also in LinkedIn. So we are also producing some podcasts in the near future. So
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And a
We
new
look
thing
forward
we
to
haven't
that.
tried before is creating these infographics that based on our article content. So we are testing some AI services, and it's quite extraordinary what it can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it condense, you know, the correct information and making a very nice visualization of the article, the content. So even with people who are less literate or don't love to sit and read articles, there will also be something for them. So
Yeah. I was thinking about doing that for mine because mine started off at like 700-800 word article, then they expanded to 1,000, then 1,500. And I recently wrote an article with 4,000 words. No,
okay,
nobody's gonna read that, but needed to get it out. But and I was thinking exactly that an infographic would serve us well for that. So
Yeah.
I'll steal that idea.
yeah.
Yes.
But
It's
I
like
think the first one will be either this week or sorry, next week, next Friday. There will be a post. So
Right. You'll have to tell me what AI tool you use for that because we'd be interested.
we use ChatGPT.
Right. Okay.
We
Well,
we 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 tried a few ones, Claude and
yeah.
Perplexity, but for the infographics, nothing beats ChatGPT. So
Right. Right. I've never tried ChatGPT for that, but I'll give it a shot. See what it
right.
yep.
does.
It's a kind of meta health communication, right? Like what with the infographics that we do for patients, but in this case for well, scientific knowledge or COA strategy ideas, etc. So I find it fascinating, you know, like the same things that we do for patients that we can do infographics for colleagues, and also with this purpose of education and for the, I don't know, pharma companies, you know, people that may need to grasp that very quickly. They don't have time, and like the importance of COA and patient voice in an infographic so that it's really
Exactly.
captured. And it's amazing the power of images, right? It gets
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
there. So
I
I
mean,
think it's a
even
great initiative.
even in literate countries, of course, there's a lot of people who doesn't love to read page after page. So
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah, or
true.
they don't have the time. They just
yeah,
don't have the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Well,
wonderful.
I hope this stays on the recording, but I want to say that I really like your articles and I really loved the audio version of it with you talking and explaining it. I'd love to be able to work out how to do that. Yeah. So that's for the record anyway.
okay,
And
thanks
I
for
would
that.
love to, because we have our Art of Diversity School and we have a linguistic validation specialization course, and now we will be launching patient voice research courses and also for cognitive debriefing. But I would like to extend the invitation to maybe create a course, and just because you have so much to teach us, and
Yeah.
really I think the more we improve COA science and the more we educate professionals, patients into this, etc., the better for all. So I just leave
Yeah,
it there.
I mean, we are open for all suggestions. So let's see how this works.
Okay,
So
I will
Mhm.
be, and I will be the first student to enroll. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will as well. I will.
At least I won the course for me. I don't know. Well, really, thank you so much. Thank you, Rachid, for your beautiful paintings, because Rachid told us before we started recording that he's a painter, and he has this colorful and joyful paintings, and I think that it's absolutely healing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
thank
yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your invitation. And Thomas and I, we was talking about you guys, and we really admire how passionate you are about the patient voice and engagement. And we can just feel it, it's just beautiful to see. So thank you for that.
Well, it's reciprocated.
Likewise.
It really is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for all those watching us. And this is another episode of our Patient Voice and Linguistic Validation Café. Thank you for listening to the Culture, Communication and Care Spotlight with Mark Gibson and Ferrante. Stay connected by visiting our website artofdiversity.org and by subscribing to the Patient Voice and Linguistic Validation Café YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share about us with your community on social media. Thank you. We appreciate your support.